All right. Yeah, I don't know why I decided to sit on the couch for this, but it felt kind of cozy, so I thought, I don't know, maybe we'll just have a little couch chat for a change. I don't know. Maybe you guys will tell me it's stupid. Anyway, the point of this video is to talk about something that's kind of been grinding on me a little bit related to how Battlestate Games handles its community involvement. In fairness, I make a lot of videos that I think are in defense of BSG. At the same time, I will make videos about things that I feel critical of when it comes to BSG or Tarkov as a game on a whole. And I think I've been pretty fair. I think I run about 50-50. So depending on the video, depending on who's watching it, sometimes they'll tell me that I'm being a piece of or whatever to the development team and I'm not being fair, and then I'll make a video that ends up supporting them and everybody will tell me that I'm being a dick rider. So depending on where you are at the point in time that you come and watch this video from me, maybe I'm on either side of that fence for you. I would suggest or hope that you guys might be able to give me a fair shake and understand that I'm not trying to make this video from a mean place or, you know, I've got a vendetta against anyone. I've just always tried to find fairness for the players and provide them with something of quality because I think we as players deserve that. Nor do I also feel like I am better than anyone else. I've been lucky enough to be given the ability to have a platform to be able to talk about my thoughts and hopes and feelings and dreams and all this other stuff, and I try to use it for that as best I can. At the same time, I also realize that me talking about this is one giant first world problem, be that as it may, but I'm here to talk about video games, so talk about video games I shall. In there lies the problem that I have at the moment. And I think the best way to go about this would be to take a step back and explain the background as to why I am here talking about this. For those of you wanting a TLDR, I feel that there is an ineptitude at BSG, an inability to talk effectively with the community at a larger level than by disseminating the information that they have through a group of volunteers that are left to sit on the front lines alone and deal with the scrutiny of the player base for telling them what they're allowed to do. And I think that that needs to stop because I think it causes confusion, it causes animosity, and the people that are being paid to do this kind of job are not doing their fucking job. Multiple times in the past, there have been instances where the story has changed about what we are allowed to and not allowed to do. At one point in time, the use of macros was something that wasn't bannable, but was frowned upon. Now, apparently, there are people that are trying to use Logitech macros to do things like reload a Mosin 37 times a raid so that they don't have to bother spamming the R key, which in and of itself is kind of fucking lazy. But even still, apparently is now bannable because you're not supposed to use macros in Tarkov. But that was something that they had announced widely. Things like reshade and NVIDIA filters had been blocked by BSG. You can't use either one with Escape from Tarkov now. The programs, both of them, have been blocked. No one got banned for using them. They just blocked the software from interacting with the Tarkov exe file. And again, I don't find anything wrong with that either. And there were publicly facing tweets and large announcements that were made for both of those very widespread, very largely used programs. But that was back in like 2019. Fast forward to now, and progressively more and more when it comes to larger announcements like what softwares we are able to use, for instance, there are conflicting reports about whether or not something is actually a violation of the terms of service, is a potential violation of the terms of service, or is not a violation of the terms of service, depending on who you talk to and who you ask. In a lot of situations, you have people that are acting at the volunteer level that technically represent BSG because they have a fun-colored name in Tarkov that have told people whether or not something is allowed or isn't allowed, and in some cases it's the exact same piece of software or exact same third-party application or tool or piece of hardware that to one person is saying that it is a potential violation and to another says, you'll probably be fine. Then we go a level higher and talk to the people that act as actual payrolled community managers for BSG that always end up erring on the side of caution and tell somebody that it's a violation. That's a TOS violation. And at the same time, they do it in such an amount of turnaround time that there's no way that they actually could have checked with somebody higher up, or they could have done the, research necessary to determine whether or not it would actually do anything specific to Tarkov in a way that would give somebody an unfair advantage. And the reason why we are here is because because of what happened extremely lately. In the last week or so, there has been a program that has grown in popularity that changes desktop colorization settings. It's something that wasn't even made by a community member, but someone that has been doing this for Call of Duty for a while and saw some pictures of Tarkov and decided that he was going to make some LUTs for it, LUTs. Now, LUTs are just pre-set up color tables that are most commonly used in video editing or in software color grading to modify how a certain image or series of images on a screen fit a colorized motif based on what an artist is trying to portray, and it's saved as a color library to be referenced at a later point in time across a wide variety of art forms. Most commonly, again, like I said, is in video editing. But it's applied to video games in a lot of cases. And there are a lot of streamers that also will apply this to OBS. A lot of people that do recordings will apply this to OBS as well. So for instance, a LUT would take like this pinkish purple light over here, or this more like magenta colored light over here, and they could color grade the lighting to make it look a little bit more yellow, or a little bit more orange, or a little bit more brown, or whatever, to modify the look and feel of the lighting or the colors associated with the couch, whatever. And that's what a LUT does. That's it. Now, if it were something that only ever applied to Tarkov when Tarkov ran, like what Reshade would do, then that's blocked and would be a violation of terms because it interacts directly with Tarkov as a program. But these color presets that are being created are being done so by manipulating the Windows aspects of what can change the colorization, brightness, and contrast associated with Windows by using either the AMD control panel or the NVIDIA control panel. Things that you can do manually by hand and instead have just been preset up in advance that you would pick from a drop-down menu. It's nothing more than a file of colorization parameters that can be plugged into anything that can read that file, OBS included. When it was discussed, if people had been discussing it with any CM, in this case Applezor, I believe, at BSG, the response was it's a violation of terms of service. Now remember, this is something that you can do by hand by moving color and brightness sliders in your own NVIDIA control panel and your own AMD control panel that is available for every GPU that exists throughout history. Any GPU that is capable of running Tarkov has a configuration for Windows that allows you to modify it in any of these ways. People that are colorblind do this on their entire desktop. They don't just do it for Tarkov, they do it for everything. So there's no need to use post effects, which is resource intensive. Doesn't make sense to use it because it costs frames. If you do it inside of your own NVIDIA control panel, you don't end up running into the performance hit. So why bother using post effects? Again, doesn't make sense. That being said, again, it gets brought up to the community management side of things. Somebody ends up asking them about it. And not only do they say that it's against TOS, but they don't say that it's against TOS publicly. They don't say, hey, this program is gaining traction. It's becoming relatively prevalent. It's not something that BSG approves of. Whether or not it's allowed is a completely separate side point to whether or not somebody at BSG at the actual company level should be making larger announcements to the million plus people across all of their different platforms where they have the reach to be able to tell everyone this is something that you shouldn't use and you could be banned for it. But they aren't doing that. Instead, what they're doing is they're taking to these privatized discords that are made up of content creators only, or they're talking in DMs behind the veil of BSG to tell us whether or not something is allowed, and then telling Sherpa coordinators and Sherpas whose job is to teach new players how to play the game more effectively, and telling emissaries to just answer questions if you end up seeing them across multiple platforms like on Twitter and stuff, because apparently that's the emissary's job. Now, I'm all for emissaries disseminating information from BSG because it helps them keep boots on the ground or whatever, and I'm all for them doing, language localization and all the other stuff that they do. But for people like Applezor, who's a senior CM with BSG and technically speaking is being paid to do community management, to then tell emissaries to respond to people asking about this without just handling it them damn selves doesn't make any damn sense. I don't get the point. Why would you have volunteers taking the heat for you? Unless, of course, you're just being chicken shit. Now, it could be that you don't want to deal with the anxiety of being a CM, and that I can absolutely sympathize with. CMs get treated like shit an awful lot. But I feel like there's a responsibility to the player base here that the CMs for BSG are failing us with. And I mean us, all of us. Large, widely used programs that are commonly being used by the player base, like Rant Scanner, for instance, a third-party program that will watch your inventory for you and knows what the graphics are that you have in your backpack and will tell you what items are worth if you want it to using an overlay system. It has been said that it's a violation of the terms of service, even though all it's doing is looking at an overlay of the game and telling you in a separate window whether or not, something is invaluable based on market data. Again, things that are being automatically scanned inside of the game. Personally, for me, that's a little bit of a stretch. I don't think that that's necessarily the intention of use for Tarkov or a third-party program that interacts with it. But modifying colorization settings has been a practice that people have been doing in a wide variety of shooting games forever. And using the blanket statement, use third-party programs at your own risk when playing Escape from Tarkov is kind of a dick move. If you can't get down to some level of specificity when it comes to really widely used and popular programs, what are you even doing? Other than, of course, telling Sherpa coordinators, emissary coordinators, and emissaries to do your job for you because you can't be bothered. I don't know, maybe I got it wrong. And of course, the people that are volunteering for BSG probably don't mind. If anything, it brings them a little bit of clout. They get a couple more followers. They get a little bit higher of maybe a grade of viewership. If you're a content creator, Sherpa or emissary of some level, maybe that adds to your street cred and you end up getting some more viewers as a result of it. That could be fine. And I'm all for people trying to gain whatever amount of popularity if that's what they want and helps with their livelihood. I mean, we're in an eyeballs game after all, nothing wrong with brokering for a little or trying to gain a little bit more attention, but it's causing undue stress onto people that aren't being paid to do that. And at the same time, if I may, there's probably two content creators, being Landmark and Pestily, that have an audience that would even somewhat rival that of BSG's, to where if they were to make a tweet about it, yeah, it would get seen by a ton of people. But BSG still has a much larger audience at their official level and has a much broader capacity of reach across massive amounts of social media presence to be able to disseminate this out bigger, faster, stronger than any content creator, Sherpa, emissary, coordinator, or otherwise. No one is that big. That's the point of BSG having the following that they do. And that's also the point of the CM doing their damn job. Community management. Getting information out to the community about larger topics that we want answers for. Why are you leaving that up to volunteers that have audiences that are this large in comparison? Why? I realize that I'm a boomer ranting on the internet about this, and maybe this doesn't really matter to anyone, but it matters to me. And if it matters to me, I'd like to believe that it would matter to people other than me. They need good community management and good public relations, and not just people that are working on the marketing side, trying to figure out when the next Twitch Rivals event is going to be, or when the next Twitch drop streams are going to be, or when the next Evasion tournament is going to be. Those things obviously are great for public relations and trying to drum up support and more game sales. Of course they are. But at the same time, you owe the players the service of communicating to them what things could potentially get them banned. Because right now, I guarantee you, there are a large number of people that are using third-party applications where they figure that they're fine. They're just going along, happily playing their game. And they could wake up tomorrow and find out they've been banned for having used it when no one at an official capacity with any real amount of reach at Battlestate is telling them whether or not it's allowed. No one. You should be reviewing popular pieces of software and telling people whether or not it's allowed. After that, have all of the Sherpas, Sherpa coordinators, emissaries, emissary coordinators join hands in a large circle and exclaim to everyone, per the tweet, per the post on Instagram, or per the launcher that everybody sees when they go to start up their game, this is no longer allowed. Because every time they get asked the question, they could just reference the very loud, large at everyone in Discord that got written by one of the CMs that are paid to do the fucking job. All of that being said, we'll probably never see that day. For two reasons. One, I don't think BSG CMs will ever get to the point where they actually do that job. I don't think they want to. I think that they don't want to deal with the anxiety, and I think that it puts them in a not okay place, and who would ever want to deal with that? Of course, then you have the volunteers that will gladly step in the way of that bullet because they love the game so much and they want to be involved with the community. So they'll deal with the stress of it until they decide they don't want to be volunteers anymore because they disagree with the way that BSG handles things, and they go on to become a now 5-year content creator for a living instead. Yeah, I'm talking about me then. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. Hope you didn't mind the little couch chat. I think at the end of the day, I would rather have an effective jerk in the CM position, but somebody that was really good at communicating out information to the player base that people kind of need to know, as opposed to somebody that's a super nice person and is just inept when it comes to their job, or ineffective when it comes to their job. Because right now, I do not believe that they're effective, and they need to be. They desperately need much better public relations than what they have. Thanks for coming and checking this out. If you're watching this, I'm probably live over at twitch.tv/Onepeg. Come by and say hi. Otherwise, if you'd be kind enough to sub the channel here, I'd be incredibly appreciative. And yeah, for the next few days, I will be no-lifing it in dark and darker still. Wizards #1, baby. See you in the next one. Peace.